All right, guys. Adrian, Upper Deck Sports Medicine. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Adrian. I run Upper Deck Sports Medicine on Instagram. It's a page mostly geared towards baseball sports medicine, but I do a lot of videos as far as prehab, how I progress back from injuries, and stuff like that, which I will go on further in depth later in this video. But for those of you that are new, that haven't come across me before, I'm going to introduce myself a little bit. My name's Adrian. Obviously, I said that, but I did 5 years of Division I baseball. I'm currently in my 4th year here at my current institution. 1 previous year when I got out of pro ball. I did 3 years as an intern, 3 years as an athletic trainer, 2 years as an intern in pro ball. I did my Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology at the University of North Texas and my Master's of Science in Athletic Training at Weber State in Weber, Utah. But goals of the videos I'm going to be posting, I'm looking at about 1 a week right now. Who knows, maybe longer with everything going on with this pandemic. I may post a little more frequently. But goals of videos I'm looking to discuss, kind of what I post in Instagram translated over, because Instagram, I've got to put multiple videos out of it because it doesn't allow me to post things in depth. Plus, this also lets me discuss things further in depth at a more fluid pace, I guess you could say. But just a few of the topics that I'm going to talk about are like topics related to athletic training in baseball, more specifically. Principles to apply in athletic training in baseball, just because as athletic training and even physical therapy, what you learn in school doesn't always apply to athletic training in baseball, because the motions that a baseball player does, especially when throwing, are completely different than any other motions you do in most sports. So a lot of the stuff that you learn in school doesn't really, some of it will translate over, but it's only going to get you so far, and you're going to need to use different techniques and stuff as far as rehab and eval skills, which I will discuss in later videos. Current topics that are going on with athletic training baseball, I guess in general, and sports performance. I'm going to talk about rehab exercises, goals, and maintenance plans depending upon the time of year that you're in. Looking at, preseason versus in-season and postseason, and what your goals and what you're trying to accomplish and how to go about them. Because we all know baseball at the collegiate level, you're never really out of season, because once these guys are done with their regular season in college, they go straight into summer ball, or juniors and some seniors that get drafted, they go straight into pro ball, and they go all the way through September, and then they go into fall ball, and then before you know it, it's December, and then you got like a month and a half off before you've got to report to winter camp and your top secret mini camps and all the other stuff you got going on. Weight room goals. Now, while that's not my bread and butter area of expertise, but I do have quite a bit of knowledge. I work very closely with our strength coach, who luckily also has multiple years of pro ball experience working as a strength coach. So I learn a lot from him. I pick his brain about a lot of stuff. He is very research heavy, which I'll be the first to admit I am not. And that's not a knock on research people at all. It's just the information that I get from all that type of stuff. It puts me on information overload, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell to do. I look at it as my research is in the athletic training room and on the field. I try a lot of new things out there, and I just see how it goes. Because that's essentially, what we do is we practice medicine, and it's just that you practice, just like the guys practice out there, we practice as well. So I'm going to talk about that type of stuff. It's kind of backwards on what this topic is going to be about first and foremost, because it's preseason, even though theoretically we would be knee deep in our collegiate season right now. But with everything going on, it's canceled. So, excuse me, I thought I would start from the beginning of it, kind of like how I did with my page on Instagram, and then kind of move forward into that. and go from there. So we're going to start with preseason right after I get a drink real quick. Sorry about that. I'm also dealing with a broken rib. I had a broken rib about a week ago, so I'm still pretty sore and a little short of breath. But I guess first thing is building a throwing program in your preseason. The biggest thing that I see, and I think pro ball guys will say the same thing when you get, especially a high school kid. I see it when I get high school kids as well, and I know guys in pro ball, they'll say the same thing when after the draft you get an 18-year-old kid. They don't really know how to do an actual throwing program, like how to build it. Like what are you trying to go for? And these 18-year-old kids, they just want to they'll take 2 weeks off, and all of a sudden, give me 1 or 2 days and I'll be able to get ready on the mound. No, that's not quite how it works. I'm lucky enough where I'm at that I have a pitching coach that gets it, and he builds the throwing program over Christmas and then into January, and he's got it laid out day by day. So when you're building a program, you're looking at increasing distance over time. It's, for me, a lot of it is I'm not so much concerned with the throwing program itself. I'm more concerned with the frequency and the consistency of the throwing program. By that I mean, guys do not take a lot of time to build up their distance, and then they're not throwing every single day. It's every other day, or they'll just go out there and throw a bunch at 90 feet and then go from there and call it good. The other part of it is long distance. For me, I don't typically take guys past 180. 120. I know some coaches like to do really, really long toss, 180, 200, 220. You know what? If the coaches want that, you go right ahead. But, for me, I see a lot more issues come up when guys want to throw that far, just because you're changing your mechanics when you go that far back, because you've got to get lift on that ball to go up rather than reaching out. So now you're taking your thoracic cavity and then all of a sudden you're arching it back, which is what we don't want guys to do, because then you get that rib cage flare, and they're doing that just to compensate, to get the launch angle to get up in the air so that ball can travel 200 feet, 220 feet, whatever it may be. So that's why I'm not big on that long distance. So I typically don't take guys past 120. So the other thing is you got to get into a routine of warming up. I see too many guys from the minute they start throwing the ball at 30 or 45 feet, they're reaching back and trying to throw a haymaker. Like that's not how a throwing program is designed. The throwing program is designed to warm you up while you're building up your distance, and then cooling down as well. What I see in guys is, like I said, they want to throw, like they normally do right off the bat, and it doesn't work that way, especially when you get older, and then also you get knee deep into a season when these high school kids, they're not used to a 56 game regular season and playing 4 to 5 times a week. It starts wearing on you as an 18-year-old kid, and then throw on top of that school and actual weights, whereas in like high school, most of these kids, they didn't have to lift weights because the coaches didn't make them. Realistically, the only time they lifted weights is if they played football. So, that starts to wear on you. So I tell my guys that, however far out you're going that day, that ball needs to be on an arc. It needs to be bringing down icicles when you're warming up. That's what I tell the guys, because I want the ball up in the air like that when they're warming up. And then I tell them, once they get to the distance, like let's say 90, 105, however far they're going back that day, they get out to that distance and then they hang out there for a little while, and then that's when they can really start reaching out and putting something on that ball, and really reaching out and snapping down and putting it on the line. And then when you start coming in, that's what you're doing. You're putting it on the line because you've warmed up. You've got everything going. It's the equivalent of, like, you go and you buy a brand new car, and people tell you, hey, don't really drive it over 60 miles an hour the first 3,000 miles or whatever it is. It's to break in the engine. Well, it's kind of the same concept when you're throwing. You warm up and then you go from there. So that's kind of what you're looking at with a throwing program in the preseason. And obviously you go off what your coach wants you to do, because they've got it in mind on when you're going to start bullpens and stuff like that. And and if you're not really sticking to a program and you're kind of up and down, your body's never going to get used to it, because whether we want to realize it or not, or admit it or not, baseball players, they're creatures of habit. I've seen that preseason and fall ball tend to be harder on my guys than the regular season, because their bodies are so used to being in a rhythm of what's going on every single day, that in fall ball and in spring ball going into the actual season, they're never really able to get into that rhythm. So their body is in constant flux, and it's never the same. But then when we get into the season and we're playing on Tuesday nights, and then practice Wednesday, practice Thursday, or practice Wednesday, travel Thursday, and then play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then off day Monday, you start to see these guys getting into a rhythm, and their bodies adapt to it. So it's the same concept when you're building a throwing program, especially for pitchers. I talk about mostly pitchers in this because I predominantly see pitchers with issues. So with that, that's kind of what I gear things to. So I guess to recap, when you're building a throwing program, you want to increase. I typically increase by 15 feet every other day, and then build out to 120 feet. Like I said, I don't really go past that when I'm doing a rehab program, I should say that. And then if a guy is a long toss guy, then that's on him. But he's not going to be doing long toss while he's rehabbing with me. Getting into a routine, and what I mean by that is warming up. My pitching coach has done a really good job of showing the guys a routine of working with the Jaeger bands to get them warmed up, just to get ready to throw, so that gets their body moving. They stretch. They do some dynamic bands just to get their arms moving, because that's, how pitchers are. Those first couple throws, they're moaning and groaning because they're not used. It just, if you don't use it for a little while, your body loses it. So you see that a lot. And then warming up to the distance. I tell my guy, like I said, I've said it before, I want this ball on an arc. I want little to minimal effort on these as you're building up, and then once you get your body moving, you start breaking a little bit of a sweat, then that's when you can start putting a little bit more on it. But until you get to your distance, and then you bring it back in, I don't want that ball on the line. I want it on an arc. When they start bringing that distance in, that's when I want it on the line. That's when they can really reach out and snap down on it, kind of like how they're doing in a flat ground. And then you go from there. You typically look about how long they've been down. That's about how long you want your throwing program to be. So for our guys, they usually get about a month down at the end of fall ball, and then going into Christmas break. We typically take about 6 weeks, a little bit longer, to get the guys back up and running. That's on purpose, just so that we can save the arms and kind of ramp them up and get them ready to hit their peak by Valentine's weekend. For most, Valentine's weekend is opening weekend for us in college, so that's what we're looking at. But I guess that's what I wanted to go over today. Like I said, I'll look at how we got things going on with this coronavirus going on. but I'll typically look to post a video about once a week, and I'll be going off of kind of what I post on Instagram as well. But check that out as well on Instagram. It's Upper Deck Sports Medicine. I post a lot of videos of exercises on there. I'm kind of using this forum to talk a little bit more in depth. As you can see, we're going on 15 minutes. I probably won't make my videos this long. They'll probably be around the 10 to 12 minute, just because I know people tend to lose attention span right after that. I'm that way, so that's kind of why I'm keeping it that way. But yeah, I'm excited to start doing this on here and see where it goes from there. But if you guys have any questions, leave a comment down on the bottom or message me on Upper Deck Sports Medicine on Instagram. Talk to you guys later.